What's up, YouTube? pokePrimer here, primed and ready to deliver you the very first ever weekly recap for the IPL, IPBL, whatever you want to call it. I'm calling it the IPL. It's right there on the screen. International Pokemon League. Ladies and gentlemen, it's pretty legit. Yes, it is international. We do have a Canadian. I repeat, we have a Canadian. But no, this is going to be really, really cool. I'm starting this new series up on the channel where I'm going to be putting out these weekly recaps for the IPL so you guys can keep up with what's going on within the league outside of just my battles. I will be posting in the description the replay links, the showdown replay links for all of the battles each and every week with this, along with Ronnie, aka one half, aka the Rowlett brothers, and Chris, aka the Charlotte Salandits. YouTube links in the description as well. You can check out their channels. The Rowlett brothers are going to be doing the power rankings every week, so you can definitely hop over there and check that out. But for me, what the weekly recap is going to be is I'm going to go over each and every match of the week so that you guys can have an in-depth view of what went down before watching the videos or after watching the matches, and my views and takes and analysis upon each match. Then I will take a look at the MVP race for this season, the overall league standings, and then we will take a brief look at the following week's matchups. Alright guys, without further ado, let's get into this with our very first match being the Massachusetts Charizards versus the Detroit Drampas. The Massachusetts Charizards are coached by Josh, Detroit Drampas coached by Ronnie. Now, this matchup was a little bit hard to determine for MVP race as the match wasn't recorded, and they both forgot to save the replay. So you will not be seeing this one in the description, just so you guys are aware. If you don't see a link for this matchup, that is why. But other than that, I know I was able to get a couple of details off of each person, including what team that they brought. Josh decided to bring the Mega Blastoise, Mamoswine, Trevenant, Dragonite, Excadrill, and Electros, as Ronnie and the Drampas decided to bring their Mega Latias, Klefki, Entei, Jirachi, Cofagrigus, and Alomomola. So right off the bat, taking a quick look at what we got going on here. Mega Blastoise does a number on Detroit's team right off the bat before going into the matchup. Like at team preview, we can see Mamoswine could do a lot of work as well. Excadrill had a chance to do some decent damage, and Electros really had nothing to supremely fear on the opponent's team, having free switch-ins to Klefki pretty much every time, which is really, really deadly. So getting into the actual match, what I was able to find out happened. For one big highlight of the match, Jirachi on the Drampa side was able to get 0 hacks and was literally just taken out of the match. Did really nothing at all, which is really, really rare because of the Syringe race. Jirachi can usually get maybe 1 or 2 kills, or at least pull off some clutch flinches and whatnot throughout the matchup, but it got literally 0 hacks the entire match. And another huge moment, Klefki got up a Reflect, probably trying to get into either Mega Latias or something else to potentially set up, and the Mamoswine was able to crit the Klefki through the Reflect and take it out. So that's hugely, hugely unfortunate. You guys know from the channel that you guys are gonna find out from the channel that we like to crit through screens a lot. So you're gonna see that kind of stuff soon. But yeah, overall, seemed like a pretty one-sided match for Mega Blastoise. Mega Blastoise came in picking up 3 kills in this match. That's the last detail they were actually able to remember about the matchup. Mega Blastoise pretty much dominated the team. Entei was able to pick up 2 kills, which is really, really cool for the Drampas. But overall, the Massachusetts Charizards were able to pick up a 3-0 win over the Detroit Drampas in Week 1, which is really unfortunate, but you know, what can you do? by the way, these matches are all interdivisional. Josh is a part of the Kanto division, and Detroit is part of the Johto division, just so you guys know for this week. All of these are going to be interdivisional. But on to the matches that we have the details about. I would talk more about this, but I can't really analyze something I haven't actually seen. But we're going to go on to the next match, which is actually my own match. The Pittsburgh Popplios taking on the Tony Typhlosions. Popplios bring the Sneasel, Volcanion, Fortress, Mega Banette, Meloetta Pirouette form, and the Salamence, while the Typhlosions decide to bring the Kyurem Black, Togetic, Arcanine, Mega Scizor, and Hitmonlee. Popplios are able to pull off a 3-0 victory this week against the Typhlosions to start off the season strong. Couple things. First of all, the opening segment of the match, Togetic was able to paralyze the Suicide Lead Sneasel, and then after a full para on the following turn, was able to then 2-hit KO the Sneasel with the Ancient Power, which is hugely unfortunate because the Sneasel could have easily taken out the Togetic without it, but that allowed Togetic to pick up a kill in the match, which is still really cool. It also did get the Ancient Power boost, which is something cool to note as well, so that was really terrifying in the moment. Looking at the Typhlosion's team, after rocks are set up on his side of the field, nothing actually switches into Volcanion. Nothing switches into Choice Specs Volcanion. Literally nothing at all switches into it. This was proven later in the match as the Kyurem Black came in to take a Steam Eruption. After rocks, the Steam Eruption did about 40%, allowing the Volcanion to completely 2-hit KO the Kyurem Black without any real issue, which is definitely really cool to see. Volcanion is an absolute monster in the format, so it's really tough to work around. So definitely happy to see that thing put in some work. Once the rocks were off of the Popplio side of the field, it was definitely a much easier match because it was able to move around things like Salamence and Volcanion a little bit better. Mence actually attempted to set up a Tailwind on the Gliscor, but the Gliscor actually had speed investment, which allowed it to outspeed the Mence and take it out before it could set up the necessary Tailwind, which would have led to a Volcanion sweep. That was the plan at that point. Tailwind goes up, Volcanion comes in on the death, and cleans up the game from there. But due to that, Plan B had to be resorted to as Meloetta came in, Relic Songed, transformed into the Pirouette form, and with the coverage of Ice Punch, Drain Punch, and Fire Punch, was able to clean up the rest of the match, KOing the Arcanine, Mega Scizor, and the Gliscor, picking up 3 kills, 0 deaths. Overall, a really solid play match by both sides. It was very close up until the end once Meloetta Pirouette got going. It's really nice to see that thing do some work in the league format. Very rare that you see people bring the Pirouette form in a league match. It's usually just see it in its Aria form, playing a defensive or Calm Mind role. So it's really interesting to see that thing get some shine. But it led the Popplios to pick up a 3-0 victory against the Tony Typhlosions. The next match we are going to look at is the Carolina Cutie Flies taking on the Alabama Arcanines. Carolina Cutie Flies are coached by Jen, and the Alabama Arcanines are coached by Juwan. One quick note, however, Juwan was unable to battle this week, so Chris's fiance or girlfriend or something like that, I believe it's fiance at this point. Huge congrats to him on all that, by the way. But his fiance, Elsie, took over Juwan's team for him this week. Huge thanks to her for doing that. That was really cool, especially not having any competitive experience and bringing it down to a 1-0 against the Carolina Cutie Flies, with the Cutie Flies picking up the victory. This match was a very interesting one to watch, as You can kind of see some less experienced players duke it out, and I don't mean to rag on anyone, but there's a couple of misplays throughout the match, but it was a really, really interesting match, to say the least. Torn T was able to put on a lot of early game pressure, being able to get 2 back-to-back Hurricane confusions on Carolina's team, which was really, really painful and really, really hard to deal with. Blissey was bulky enough to take on Tornadus and then beat it 1v1, which is really, really cool to see. Blissey's just such a fat mon, and even without the Eviolite that Chansey provides, that's really, really interesting. I didn't even go over both teams. What am I? The Arcanines brought Torn T, Mega Swampert, Chansey, Darmanitan, Uxie, and Garchomp, while the Cutie Flies brought Rotom-Wash, Haxorus, Blissey, Donphan, Gourgeist, Small, and Mega Metagross, which we should have banned, but, we didn't, but okay, whatever. Yeah, so Blissey beat the Tornadus 1v1. SD Garchomp on Elsie's side was actually able to tear through a large portion of the Cutie Flies team with combinations of moves like Dragon Tail and such. It was really, really able to put in a lot of work, tearing through half of Jen's team without any real issue. Even was able to live in HP Ice from the Scarfed Rotom-Wash, which is really, really impressive, and then was able to take that thing out. It was really, really scary to see the Rotom-Wash go for that HP Ice. I was thinking that the Garchomp was about to drop, but that was definitely not the case. But it was really, really cool to see. That was a good prep on Jen's part as well, though, bringing the HP Ice on the Rotom. Huge, huge turning point in the match. Really, really, really deadly Mon in Garchomp. Really, really scary stuff. But a Clutch Freeze allowed Swampert to beat the Donphan. Clutch Freeze off an Ice Punch, which was really, really unfortunate as well. There's a lot of hacks in this match. The 2 confusions from the Hurricane, the Freeze from the Ice Punch. It was a crazy hacksy match. But yeah. Swampert was able to 1v1 the Donphan thanks to that freeze, and was able to take it out, which is really, really unfortunate for Jen. She was very much on the back foot. It was back and forth at times, but a couple of things here and there were able to put her on the back foot, which is really unfortunate. She was able to turn it around, though, later in the game when Destiny Bond Gourgeist was able to take out the Garchomp late game. Was able to come in, and the Garchomp went for a Dragon Tail, which led to which was negative priority, which led to the Gourgeist outspeeding, getting the Destiny Bond off, and dying valiantly to that Dragon Tail, and taking the Garchomp with it, which is really, really cool. Really, really great play on Jen's part. This allowed her to bring in her Haxorus on the Chansey, taunt it, set up a D-Dance, and clean up late game to pick up the 1-0 victory, which is absolutely amazing match to watch. Really, really good game between the two. My one biggest critique of this match, rocks were up on both sides of the field the entire game. Now you can see on Elsie's side, she had no way of removing the rocks, so that's perfectly fine. But there were multiple occasions where Jen had a chance to spin away the rocks with Donphan, and honestly, those rocks could have potentially come back to bite her later in the match if they had whittled down her team a little bit more. Elsie might have actually pulled out this victory, so really, really close match, but definitely you get a chance to spin those rocks away, spin them away. Don't forget to bring Rapid Spin on Donphan. Donphan needs his spinning, so that's my only critique of the match. Overall, fantastic game by both of them. Again, huge thanks to Elsie for coming through and taking over Juwan's team for this week. Really, really good stuff. Really, really impressive, and I hope Chris teaches her a lot more in the future. Speaking of Chris, we are coming to our final game of the week, which pits Chris and the Charlotte Salandits against Chase and the Toronto Tyrantrums. And you can see right here that Toronto brought the Mega Charizard Y, Manaphy, Ferrothorn, Haunter, Heliolisk, and Espeon, while the Charlottes and Landits brought the Mega Sableye, Virizion, Raikou, Scizor, Tauros, and Infernape. Start off the match, Sableye came in against the Espeon, and it led to an early Calm Mind battle. However, this Calm Mind battle was easily won by the Sableye, as Espeon was hitting it with non-stab Dazzling Gleams, while Sableye was able to hit it with Stab Shadow Balls, and after 2 of those, the Espeon dropped. So Sableye was able to pick up an early lead in the matchup. Sableye was then burned shortly thereafter by the Manaphy, which led to the Manaphy picking up a kill against the Sableye as it died to the burn eventually, which is really unfortunate. Virizion had a fun time in this matchup. Calm Mind, Virizion, really good set, really nice set. Got paralyzed and then fully parried by the Ferrothorn, which is really unfortunate because that paralysis came back later on to bite it in the ass big time. The Ferrothorn was able to be beaten later in the match, but the Virizion being unable to take it out right there, which would have been really nice. Could have easily taken it out with a Focus Blast, which is probably what it was going for, but really unfortunate there. However, the Virizion was able to come back later on and take out the Megazard Y on a very awesome play. Hit it on a switch-in with a Focus Blast. Did about 40%. Tarantrums went for Roost on their Zard, and another Focus Blast was able to come through, and since the Roost eliminated the flying typing, the Focus Blast was actually able to absolutely annihilate the Mega Charizard Y, which is an awesome play to see. Hitting that thing on the Roost was really awesome, so completely neutralizing that huge threat in the match. However, a bunch of full paras ensued shortly thereafter for the Virizion, allowing the Haunter to essentially just come in and clean it up with some Sludge Bombs. Raikou, Scizor, and Tauros essentially barely entered the matchup because it was this point late game that Infernape happened. And when I say Infernape happened, I mean Infernape happened. Scarfed Infernape pretty much after the Zard went down. Scarfed Infernape was able to come in and do massive amounts of damage. Came in and was able to just fire off 2 quick close combats and wipe out the Heliolisk and the Manaphy, which is really insane, really deadly mon. And then shortly thereafter, after a short amount of time, was able to come in, click Flare Blitz twice, and take out the remaining 2 mons on the Tyrantrums, being the Ferrothorn and the Haunter, and then died to its own recoil. But man, that thing absolutely tore holes in the Tyrantrums team, and it helped a lot in leading the Salandits to a 3-0 victory here in Week 1. And with that being our final matchup, we are going to take a look at the MVP race. What the MVP race is going to be is basically we are going to calculate which mon did the best throughout the entire of the season. We're going to be going based off of kills, deaths, overall differential, etc., whatnot. You'll see how it works. The ranking will go who has the most kills, and then if they have the same amount of kills, we go to see who died the most, or basically see their differential from that point, and they will be ranked in order. If it's a tie, it goes to alphabetical order. Okay? So here are what the MVP rankings are look like as of Week 1. With Week 1 coming to an end, we see the MVP rankings as they are right now. The current MVP of the league is the wonderful, amazing Infernape from the Charlottes and Landits, rocking 4 kills, a single death, and the +3 differential. Coming up, tied for second place is going to be the Mega Blastoise from the Massachusetts Charizards and Meloetta from the Pittsburgh Poplios. 3 kills, 0 deaths, and +3 differential. And with the top 3 out of the way, we're going to clear out the rest of the list. Garchomp sits at 3-1, +2 from the Alabama Arcanines. There's a tie between Haxorus and Volcanion at 2-0, with a +2 differential from Carolina and Pittsburgh, respectively. Entei from the Detroit Drampas makes the list at 2-1 with a +1 differential. And then the remainder of the list is a massive tie of 1-1s, but based upon alphabetical order, Arcanine from the Tony Typhlosions, Blissey and Donphan from the Carolina Cutie Flies are going to make the final 3 slots in the top 10. Huge interesting things to see here in the in the MVP rankings of Week 1. Really interesting to see what we got going down. Some really good Mons up there. Really commonly seen Mons. Offensive threats like Infernape and Garchomp are on the list. Haxorus is on the list. You know, huge offensive threats. Volcanion's there. Not surprised by that. But things like Blissey and Donphan, as the weeks go on, I'm sure those things are going to creep their way off the list. Maybe even make a Blastoise might creep his way down. So for more offensive Mons can peek their way onto the list. But we'll see what happens as the weeks go on. So without further ado, let us get into the league standings. As you can see, we have 2 divisions. This is not how they're going to look every week, but we have 2 divisions currently. The Kanto division was the victors this week. These cross-divisional matches, Kanto won all of them. So everyone in Kanto is 1-0, and I actually messed this up a little bit. The Carolina Cutie Flies are not 1-0 +3, they're 1-0 +1. I apologize for that mess up, but the Charlotte Salandits, Massachusetts Charizards, and Pittsburgh Poplios are all tied 1-0 at +3, while the Carolina Cutie Flies are 1-0 at +1. As for the Johto division, the Alabama Arcanines are on top at 0-1 with a -1 differential, and then there's a 3-way tie for second place between the Detroit Drampas, Tony Typhlosions, and Toronto Tyrantrums, all 0-1, -3. So, shaping up so far to be an interesting race, with there being a 4-way tie in the records in both divisions. It's a good way to start off the season, as stuff like this, you know, can lead to more competitive situations coming towards playoffs, which is really interesting, to say the least. And now, to close things out for this week, we are going to take a look at next week's matchups. Looking to be a really interesting week. It is going to be a divisional match week next week, as the Carolina Cutie Flies are going to take on the Pittsburgh Poplios in the Kanto division, as well as the Massachusetts Charizards will be taking on the Charlotte Salandits. So those are both going to be fantastic matches. All 4 teams won in Week 1, so it's going to be a very interesting matchup between these teams next week. Two very interesting matchups. As for the Johto division, we will be seeing the Detroit Drampas taking on the Toronto Tyrantrums, which is going to be a hell of a match. Really interesting team matchup between the two of them, so it's going to be really fun to see. And then for what I consider to be the main event next week, 2 best friends, one who taught the other how to play competitive. Juwan and the Alabama Arcanines will be taking on Justin and the Tony Typhlosions. So this is going to be an insane week, really cool week. I'm really looking forward to these matchups. It's going to be a bunch of really crazy good matches this week, so definitely stay tuned for that. With that being said, I'm going to get out of here, guys. If you guys have enjoyed, please make sure to leave a like down below and subscribe if you haven't already. Head over to Chris and Ronnie's channels. They will be also linked in the description, and check out those battle videos, because there were some really good matches this week. And without further ado, guys, I guess that's going to be it for me. See you guys next week with the next recap. And until then, I'm pokePrimer, signing off.